Welcome everybody to the channel. My name is Matt and this is the Gaming Corner. So today's video we are going to talk about something a little bit different. We are going to talk about third-party controllers, like the newer ones you can buy. Stuff from like old school, Retrobit, 8-Bit Do. Yeah, I like calling it 8-Bit Do, by the way. I'm not calling it the other one. Just like from now on when I talk about Nintendo, it's going to be Nintendo, because that's how it's spelled. So I'm going to just tick everybody off that I can. But we're going to talk about third-party controllers and the lovely Sega Genesis, which you can see sitting here. There's also one here. There's also one here. I had to bust this Genesis out because the game that's sitting in here right now, if you guys know cartridge types, that's Virtual Racing. I had to double check something. And Virtual Racing happens to be region locked, so I had to bust out my other Genesis because the one that sits over here, I'll show you here real quick, has a 32X on it. The original Virtual Racing does not work on the 32X, so you have to have a non-32X Genesis. So, with that part out of the way, let's get into what we're going to be talking about. So when I buy the third-party 8-bit controllers, I normally buy Retrobit. And I recently just started buying the 8-Bit Do. Like I said, I'm going to take you all off by calling it the Do every time. Just because I know people hate that. Because that's not how it's said. What it is for me now. But we're going to talk about two games that I use for testing purposes. Now, Virtual Racing just came into the testing purposes with a new controller just came out. So I do want to go over that one real quick. But the main game that I use for testing, because it was the first game I started to find problems in, is the original Mortal Kombat 1. This is the main game I use for testing. I heard that Sonic 1, I do believe, is the only one that also has issues with the controllers. But this is the one I found it in big time. And I want to go over what it is I found and why I think it's still very important to hang on to an original controller. And I think you should always have at least one OG controller for your systems, just in case you run into problems. But not to be outdone, because I also buy games that are the RAM hacks. Like Mortal Kombat 1 has a arcade edition. This is really good, by the way. If you've never tried this, download the ROM if you have to, because it is technically free if you can find it. But this is an awesome fan RAM hack of a game. But I tested out these controllers of this game too, and it has the exact same problem. So, for the purposes of showing you what goes on, I am going to use the original MK. So I am going to run this one when I do it. And I'll show the difference between the OG controller and the third-party ones. But let's go over the third-party controllers that I have. Like I said, I happen to became whatever, a huge fan of the Retrobit controllers. And actually, the first Retrobit controller I bought was this bad boy. The Street Fighter II Edition controller. I actually like this one a lot. I love the design on it. And this is one that is compatible with my PC and my Genesis. So, very nice. And then from there, I started buying other ones because, one, finding the OG controllers, it's not hard yet, but it's getting, some people are selling them for way too high sometimes. And plus, why not buy a third party when it's brand new? It should be perfect, right? But all right, let's go over the ones we got. So you saw the first Retrobit one that I bought. I also bought the Crimson Red, also wired. I do have their Bluetooth blue one, which we'll talk about a different problem I'm having with this one right now in just a minute. I also bought both of the big reds, of the big six. I bought the wireless version and I bought the wired. This one came first for me. This one I waited almost a year to get my hands on. And there's a reason why I want to talk about these two. Then, those weren't the only ones I bought. I also bought One of the Retro Fighters Brawler Gen pad that works on the Saturn and the Mega Drive. And then just recently I did pick up the 8-bit Do. Told you I'm going to do that just to peek, just to get people mad at me. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to jump into game footage. And what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to hold the controllers up like this to show button pushing, to show you what goes on. And we are going to start with OG Genesis controller versus this guy in Mortal Kombat 1. So I'll get that all going here, and it will show up, should be on this side of my screen. I will minimize my face, and you'll see the Genesis pop up over here. So let's go ahead and let's get that going. All right, so as I said, the Genesis will be, I always forget which side to point to, right over here. Where it says no single right now, that is where my Genesis is. All right, so when you're watching this video over here of this, the sound might be off because I didn't restart my recording, and that happens when I first turn it on. If I'd restart the recording, the sound would sync up better. I'm not going to worry about that because that's not part of the issue. But what we're going to do, we're not going to put the blood code in. Usually what happens is, on the Retrobit controllers, sometimes the start button is very delayed. Just, yeah, I had to hold it down there, okay? So sometimes this is delayed. On here right now, it's not terrible. Okay, so when I hit start, it came up right away, which is good. Hit start again. Not bad. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm hit start on my OG controller. We're just going to do Kano versus Sub-Zero. Okay, so OG versus Retrobit. Usually what the problem is in almost all these controllers is the C and Z button. As you can see, I'm on the C button on both, which is going to be hard. C button there, C button here. Watch what happens when I push C. As you can see, Sub-Zero doesn't always kick. Kano, no problem. The Z button also does the same thing. Z on this one, that one's pretty good. Z on the OG, also very good. So that is the problem I ran into that I started finding out, is that the C button doesn't always work. Okay, so it comes in handy when you get these controllers to test out what happens, okay? And I do this with Mortal Kombat with every controller I have. Okay, so now we got the Crimson Red controller plugged in. Okay, here we go. Sub-Zero, worked fine, versus Kano. And again, we're going to do the same thing as last time. The C and Z button are the only two I've ever noticed an issue with. And I'm not even going to, I'm just going to hit C on the Crimson Red first. Here we go. Whoop, that was not C. C. This one is really horrible. I mean, look how long that delay is. I mean, you can hear the click. Watch. Now I'm going to hit Z. Z's pretty good, but the C button is terrible. So that is the big issue with these controllers. I'm not going to go over all of them and show you it every time. This one does the same thing. The problem I'm having with this one, it doesn't like to stay charged anymore. And it's not like it's been overcharged. I only charge them up when they're pretty much dead. It's no longer holding a charge, which is getting to be very annoying to me. I have had 3 Retrobit controllers die on me. Usually they're the plug-in versions. But I have had 2 Saturn ones die. And actually I've had 4 and 2 Genesis ones die. So that's kind of why I'm not overly buying too many of these anymore. All right. I will show the 8-bit Do since that's a different brand. We're going to go over to the Big 6 now and what goes on with this one. So there are 2 problems I've had with this controller since I've gotten it. One, I actually use this on my Saturn Minis. Not Saturn Minis. Genesis Minis is where I have this hooked up to. When I brought it back over to the Genesis, there's a small itty bitty reset button in here. I had to hit that to get it to sync back up to its other component, the one that goes into the Genesis over here. That is annoying. Now that could just be a firmware update, which is what could be going on even with this, but I need to show you here. So I'm going to get it started. So inside this starting menu, everything works fine. Up, down, left, right, all the buttons work great. We're going to go to free run. I'm going to hit C. Where's C? I'm going to hit C again. Even B works perfect, as you can see. I just backed up. So all the buttons work great right at this point. We're going to do the beginner course. And I'm going to push B. It is a slight delay, and I'm going to use both hands here. I'm going to be not knowing which way I'm turning. But here's the problem. See how the car's not going anywhere? Now this could be a firmware update that you need to do. But this is the problem that Virtual Racing has. The other problem with Mortal Kombat, this controller doesn't seem to have. The C button works fine, the Z button works fine, that's why I'm not showing Mortal Kombat. But Virtual Racing has an issue. Now, since I'm in Time Attack, this doesn't matter, so. Alright, so we now have the wire one plugged in, Big 6. Now watch this. Okay, I'm going to hold down B. Zzz, and look at that, my controlling now works. So the wired one is fine, the wireless one is not. And I stuck driving like this. But that's what I want to show you guys. So the Big 6 has an issue with the original Virtual Racing. I have not tested with the 32X one yet. But the original Virtual Racing, the Big 6 wireless controller, has some issues. There is a firmware update out there that you could try. I'm not, like I said, I'm not overly worried about it because I use the wireless one on my Genesis Mini. So to me, that's not a big deal. All right, so here we are. 8-bit Dude's plugged in. I haven't changed over to Mortal Kombat yet, but it works great on Virtual Racing. So let's go over to the game in question. A little bit of delay there in the start button. Not bad though. See how fast it grabs Kano. Now see, it's not grabbing Kano at all. There it goes. Now it finally did. Skip through here. And I'm hitting C and nothing's happening. Nothing's happening with Z neither. So this is something you should test out, and this is why I also recommend always having... Oh, the Z took a while to pop up, but it finally did. Always test out your games. Or, not test out your games. Make sure you have an OG controller just in case. Alright. So, I hope you guys found this a little helpful. Don't know if you would or not, but hopefully you did. Now, one of the other things someone might say is I am running this through an HDMI pound technology cable. I have the TV behind me back here. Same thing on those. So the delay you're seeing is from the controller, not from the HDMI. Because everybody says that on the CRT TVs you have little to no delay. You still will with these. Alright, hope you guys found this helpful. And if you did, I'm glad to have helped out. Other than that, this is where I'm going to end this video. This went on a little bit longer than I was thinking, but I did need to show this stuff off real quick. Big question for a lot of you is, well, would I still buy these controllers? Oh yeah, definitely. I just know at least one of my games that it has a problem on. But yes, I will still buy these controllers. I find I'm actually enjoying the 8-bit Do right now. I love these controllers right now. I like the way they feel. I like the way they respond. But I do love these controllers. I love the wireless portions of them, everything. So yes, I will still buy them. Alright, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll see you guys in the next video.